श्रीवत्सवंशकलशोदधिकौस्तुभस्य श्रीवासराघवगुरोस्तनयं ततश्च विद्या अवाप्य विबुधोत्तमतां दधानं कुर्वे सदा हृदि गुरुं करुणाकराख्यं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वय भट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसारकुलशेखरयोगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणुपरकालयतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम् श्रीमान् वेङ्कटनाथार्यः कवितार्किककेसरी वेदान्ताचार्यवर्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदा हृदि। In the previous lecture, we saw about acharyas and a little about the great acharya, Sriman Nathamuni. So, today we will specifically see about the great acharya, Sriman Nathamuni. We saw earlier itself that Natha in his name comes from Ranganatha. He was born about 1400 years ago. They say he was born in 583 AD in the Tamil month of Ani under Anusha. He was born in a place called Veeranarayanapuram. It is a place close to Chidambaram in Tamil Nadu. There is a place called Kattumannar Kovil. That is where he was incarnated. There, Bhagavan, that is, of course, Veeranarayanapuram, like how Tiruvananthapuram is named after Shri Ananta Padmanabha Swami. In the same way, in this place, Veeranarayanapura, it is named after Bhagavan, who is called Veeranarayana. So in Tamil, we call him Veeranarayana Perumal. The word Perumal means the great one who rules everything, Sarveshwara. So, what did this great Acharya do? In the Sannidhi of Veeranarayana Perumal, he was performing seva, kainkarya to Bhagavan in that temple. He learned lots of different kalas. we saw about his mastery over music. Like that, there are several other kalas. But most importantly, he got siddhi in Ashtanga Yoga. So, whatever we say as yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, till samadhi, that pertains to the final moksha sthiti, we call it as Ashtanga Yoga. In Ashtanga Yoga, he had gained mastery. Therefore, he lived as a yoga nishtha, that is, a person for whom yoga is being performed by him as nishtha. He is practicing perfectly and he is practicing continuously without fail. He was a very great scholar. Once, certain Sri Vaishnavas who had visited Veeranarayanapura from Alvar Tirunagari, they got darshan of this Bhagavan, Veeranarayana, and they started singing a praise of him. How did they sing? They sang a hymn from the Nalayara Divya Prabandha. From the Divya Prabandha, they sang a song, they sang a hymn. Then they continued and recited a few more hymns, 9 more hymns. So this particular hymn began with Ara Vamude. Ara Vamude means you are Amrita, that no matter how many times it is consumed, no matter in how much quantity it is consumed, you are still as tasty as the first time. So, Bhagavan, who is declared by the Vedas to be the oldest being, he is older than the oldest, definitely. In spite of being older than the oldest, he is always fresh, ever fresh, in the sense that no matter how much you try to experience his auspicious qualities, there would be no limit to it. You would never get tired of it. If you start experiencing his auspicious qualities, then you will never get tired of it. You will keep relishing more and more and more, but you will never finish experiencing his auspicious qualities. He is of that kind. For this reason, Bhagavan is called Aravamudan in Tamil. So, Nammalvar, Shatakopa Muni, when he was experiencing Bhagavan, he also realized this, and therefore he addressed Bhagavan as Aravamude. So the verses of Tiruvaimozhi that began with this word were sung by these devotees. When the great Sriman Natha Muni listened to this recitation, he got a thought in his mind. What did he think? He felt, I have learned Ashtanga Yoga and I have been practicing Ashtanga Yoga in order to attain Bhagavan. But this Ashtanga Bhakti Yoga seems less enjoyable in comparison to what these people are doing. What are they doing? They are reciting hymns and they are having gunanubhava. That is, they are experiencing the auspicious qualities of Bhagavan. So, experiencing and enjoying and relishing the auspicious qualities of Bhagavan through these hymns that are overflowing with bhakti, it is way sweeter than staying very strict by rules. I have to perform this perfectly. I should not miss. This is the procedure. The procedure is very difficult. That kind of a bhakti yoga, which is called Ashtanga Yoga, rather than performing that, this seems to be way sweeter. So he enjoyed it a lot, and therefore he went to them. He fell at their feet, as it is customary for Vaishnavas to believe themselves and behave as the dasas of not only Bhagavan, but also of the dasas of Bhagavan. So Vaishnava by nature is a Vaishnava dasa. So he fell at the feet of these Vaishnavas, and then he asked them a question. At the end of what they recited, it was said that Kurubur Chadakopan Kudalil Maliya Chonna Orairatul Ippattum. Shatakopa Muni, among the 1,000 verses, the 1,000 hymns sung by the great Shatakopa Muni, these 10 as well. This is the meaning that comes out. This implies that Shatakopa Muni had composed 1,000 hymns. So, Sriman Nathamuni, what is he doing? After falling at their feet, he says, at the end of what you recited, it was said that it was implied by the words that these were composed by Shatakopa Muni, who had composed 1000 such hymns. I am very much interested in learning all of these 1000. Therefore, kindly bless me with the knowledge of the remaining hymns. In this manner, he requested them humbly. But they said, we know only these 10 hymns, unfortunately. Therefore, we cannot help you. We cannot teach you because we ourselves know only this much. But Sriman Nathamuni was determined. I will somehow or the other take all the effort necessary to learn these things by the grace of Bhagavan. So, eventually, he reached Kurugur. What is Kurugur? That is Alvar Tirunagari. We have seen that is the place from which Nammalvar had come. There, he got to meet a person called Parankusha Dasa. This person, Sri Parankusha Dasa, he was a descendant of Madhura Kavi Alvar. Being a descendant of this great Madhura Kavi, he knew the composition of Madhura Kavi Alvar. But he also did not know all the compositions of Sriman Nathamuni. So he said, I do not know the 1000 hymns that you are here for, but my ancestor, the great Madhura Kavi Alvar, he, as a Shishya of Nammalvar, he had composed 11 hymns on his Acharya itself that we celebrate as Kanninun Siruttambu. So, this Kanninun Siruttambu, if we recite it, it would be of great benefit. Now, Sriman Nathamuni, who was an expert of yoga, he therefore went to the great tamarind tree in Alvar Tirunagari. We have seen about the tree before. He sat below that and recited these 11 verses of Kanninun Siruttambu 12,000 times. We say even today that if you recite it 12,000 times with Shraddha, then you would get darshan of Shatakopa Muni. That is Nammalvar himself. So Sriman Nathamuni recited these hymns 12,000 times so that he could get darshan of the composer. How could he get darshan of the composer? That composer was a Nityasuri, correct? Nammalvar was a Nityasuri. He had appeared from Sri Vaikuntha. He had returned to Sri Vaikuntha. He could come again to bless. Now, like how? Bhagavan revealed himself through the Vishwarupa to Arjuna. The great Shatakopa Muni, he also revealed himself to Sriman Natha Muni. And like how Bhagavan taught Bhagavad Gita, which is the essence of all the Vedanta. In the same way, Nammalvar also taught the Divya Prabandha, which teaches the same things as the Sanskrit Vedas. He not only taught the hymns that were composed by him, but also taught all the remaining hymns composed by all the remaining Alvars. Having taught all of them, he also taught Nathamuni the meanings of these hymns. He did not just recite, he taught the hymn. So, what is the hymn? He would recite it and teach Nathamuni. And then he would also teach the meanings hidden inside of them. This incident is greatly celebrated by the Sri Vaishnavas because this is how the Divya Prabandha was revived. Nathamuni would later spread it, as we saw in the previous class. He would spread the knowledge, because of which we get to learn both from the Sanskrit scriptures and from these Tamil hymns that are overbrimming with bhakti. So, Nathamuni, understanding this to be a great treasure, he listened with complete attention and grasped everything he was taught. Shatakopa Muni did not stop there. He also blessed Sriman Nathamuni with a vigraha. What vigraha was this? This was the vigraha. He said, this is the vigraha of Bhavishyadacharya. Bhavishya means future. Bhavishyadacharya is a great acharya who is going to appear in the future. So, a great Paramacharya, a very, very divine acharya, is going to appear in future. This is his Vigraha. In this manner, referring to Jagadguru Ramanujacharya, of course, Shatakopa Muni gave the Vigraha, and until the appearance of this Bhavishyad Acharya, this Vigraha needs to be protected, revered, and of course, it is not like once he comes, it can be forgotten. Even today, this divine Vigraha can be found in Alvar Tirunagari. The Vigraha, the Bhavishyad Acharya Vigraha that was granted to Sriman Nathamuni is still available to us today in 2025 in Alvar Tirunagari. There is a separate temple for it where Aradhanas happen. Now, Sriman Nathamuni was extremely happy. He had come for 1000 hymns. He received 4000. He got news about Bhavishyad Acharya, who has been foretold in Agama Shastra, who has been foretold in Puranas. So that Bhavishyavani has also been repeated by the great Nammalvar, and he has further given a Vigraha of Bhavishyad Acharya. So Sriman Nathamuni was extremely happy. So he had with him now two treasures. One was the Vigraha of Bhavishyad Acharya, another was the knowledge of the 4000 divine hymns. So he came, and after returning, he taught his Shishyas the Divya Prabandha. He also set music as a master of music. He also set musical tone, the tune he set for reciting the Divya Prabandha, and told his Shishyas to recite every day the Divya Prabandha. Therefore, his Shishyas at Veeranarayanapuram, they would recite the Prabandha every day in the Sannidhi of Bhagavan. And he also ordered his Shishyas to teach it to more people. You teach it to your Shishyas also. Spread it well. Among these people, there was one person called Uyyakundar. He had learned the Divya Prabandha properly from his guru, Sriman Nathamuni. He had also learned Yoga Rahasyas, the deep teachings in yoga. Having mastered all of that, he received from his Acharya the Bhavishyadacharya Vigraha. So, Sriman Nathamuni said, during my time here, I have been performing puja to this Vigraha of Bhavishyadacharya. From now on, it is your responsibility. So, until Bhavishyadacharya appears, you will have to take on this responsibility, just like how I have been doing. Therefore, Uyakundar, with great humility and devotion, accepted the responsibility. In the days of Tirumangayalvar, there was this Adhyayanotsava that had been happening in the holy city of Sri Rangam. This Adhyayanotsava was revived during this time. Thanks to the efforts of the great Sriman Nathamuni. Further, as we mentioned in the previous lecture, he composed, the great Nathamuni, he composed Nyaya Tattva, Yoga Rahasya, and Purusha Nirnaya, 3 granthas. He lived a long life and eventually, through his Yoga Bala, in the Tamil month of Masi, in a Shukla Ekadashi, he left the earth to reach Sri Vaikuntha. This is the story of the great Acharya Nathamuni. There are a number of things that we can learn from his life. One is that he was by nature interested in learning about Bhagavan. That desire to know and understand Parabrahman is extremely important. That desire that we call as jignasa, it is extremely important. Be it Purva Mimamsa or Uttara Mimamsa, what do we say? You need that jignasa. The first sutra in Purva Mimamsa would say, you need jignasa. The first sutra in Uttara Mimamsa, which is better known as Vedanta Sutra or Brahma Sutra, the first sutra there is also talking about jignasa. What is the difference between these two? One says about dharma jignasa. It focuses on the desire to understand more practical aspects, whereas the latter in the Vedanta Sutras, it talks about Brahma Jignasa, the desire to understand Parabrahman, the Supreme Being, Paramatma. This desire is extremely important. We see even in the ordinary world that people who desire to learn about Bhagavan, from that genuine desire, when they start seeking, they learn more and more. Then there are people who do not have the desire at all. What do such people do? Either they would be totally ignorant, they may just keep on passing comments. I don't think Parabrahman exists. Yesterday there was a person. He was telling me, I don't believe there is Parabrahman. I think Bhagavad Gita is anyway nonsense. I think Bhagavad Gita was composed during the Gupta era. Why should I learn the Gita if Gita is just repeating the words of Vedas? Okay, have you learned the Vedas then? No. Why should I learn the Vedas? They have been created by man. Nothing can be eternal. I am also a man. I can create something. Why should I learn something that was created by some other person? So there are people who question in this manner. Then there are people who do not question, but even though they have faith, they have a lot of pride. Identifying this pride is very important, because the majority of people who have this pride have very little knowledge and realization. Pride will take you away from Bhagavan. Ahankara should not be there. So there are people who, if they learn just 2 verses also in Sanskrit, they will behave as though they are the greatest poet on earth. They would behave like the elephant in a rut, uncontrollable. So, Sriman Nathamuni was a very great scholar. He was a great Vedic scholar. He was a scholar of music. He was a scholar of Natya Shastra. He was a scholar of so many things. But he did not show off his knowledge. When he learned about the 10 hymns, these 10 hymns that are being recited, they are recited in Tamil, not in Sanskrit. But does language really matter when it comes to thinking about Bhagavan? He did not see any difference between Sanskrit and Tamil. Language is not a barrier when it comes to thinking about Bhagavan. There was not even the slightest doubt in his mind about it, which is why he appreciated this Divya Gunanubhava. If you see the slide, I have written easier yoga, sweeter than difficult yoga. The difficult yoga refers to Ashtanga yoga. It is difficult, definitely difficult. There is no guarantee of success. We have seen about that before. But singing praises of Bhagavan, experiencing his divine qualities, we have also seen that bhakti is not inferior. Bhakti is often misunderstood to be inferior because it is simple. Of course, there are certain other arguments. I don't know whether we covered them. I try my best to avoid those kinds of discussions. But the greatness of bhakti is often misunderstood. Bhakti is for inferior people, people who are not capable of gaining knowledge. They indulge in bhakti. What knowledge are you going to gain? If you say, I am going to gain knowledge, it means you have ahankara. If you say, I am not going to gain knowledge, then what are you going to gain? So, ahankara is very easily defeated by bhakti. But if you run after knowledge, you might get ahankara. The path of knowledge is not fake. It is not wrong, but it is difficult. Because as we gain more and more knowledge, we get more and more egoistic. But what is the point of bhakti? You are just experiencing his auspicious qualities. Is he real? Are the qualities real? In Vishishtadvaita, we say they are 100% real. Brahman is Satya. Jagat is also Satya. Sukshma Chidachit Vishishta Brahman is Jagat Karana. That Parabrahman who is there along with the jivatman that are infinite in number and prakriti, but in a sukshma state. He is the cause of creation of the universe. We have seen that before. We have seen it in greater detail. So, Bhagavan is real. His auspicious qualities are real. That means his compassion is real. His ability to save us is real. When you can directly get the benefit from the king, should you go to a minister? No. Should you go to a watchman? No. Should you try to take the effort by yourself? There is no need for that also. If I try to take the effort by myself, I might get ahankara. Plus, I might fail as well. Even without ahankara, there is no guarantee. But when the king, the greatest emperor, is himself willing to come and help me, why should I reject it? So the easiest path is the path where Bhagavan himself, being pleased with us, grants moksha. And what is the easiest way to please him? You show devotion. This was understood perfectly by the great Acharya, Nathamuni. Therefore, despite being a great expert and also a practitioner of Ashtanga Yoga, he realized that this path is not only easier, the path of devotion, the path of prapatti, where you surrender to him and enjoy his auspicious qualities. This path is easier and sweeter. Now, Uyakondar learned Divya Prabandha from him and mastered it. Kurugai Kavalappan learned Yoga Rahasya. Nathamuni taught it to both Shishyas. Among the two, Uyakondar became the best expert at Divya Prabandha, and therefore he also received the Vigraha of Bhavishyadacharya. Kurugai Kavalappan, he was a complete master of the Yoga Rahasyas. Therefore, he got a greater specialization in that field. In this manner, Sriman Nathamuni did not let his knowledge die with himself. He passed it on. He could have learned and experienced Bhagavan. Of course, he took the effort to find out all the hymns. That is another great thing to learn from him. After learning, he could have just recited it and attained Bhagavan, but he also thought about the others. He was selfless. I have found this through so much effort, therefore I should charge a lot of money. There are certain, for example, pharma companies that find medicines after so much research. They charge a lot of money for it. But then there are what we see as generic medicines, where for a much cheaper price, great formulations are made available to the public. We can see that during the pandemic, India offered vaccines to so many countries. Those countries would have otherwise had to spend a lot of money for the vaccines. They might have struggled a lot. What India showed there is selfless love. That selfless love is what Sriman Nathamuni had for the public. Therefore, he set music to it and taught his Shishyas so that they could also enjoy Bhagavan through the songs. And then he taught it to them and instructed them to teach it to more people. So, if you have a treasure, learn to share it. Don't keep Bhagavan to yourself. If Bhagavan comes in front of me, should I ask him, please give me blessings? Or should I ask, please bless everybody? There is a difference between the two. When everybody gets blessed, I will also get blessed. I have nothing to worry. So that kind of care and affection for the entirety of the public, we can see in the nature of the great Acharya, Sriman Nathamuni. He took the pain to travel, to find out, to recite the Kanninun Chiritambu 12,000 times, to learn the 4,000 hymns. He did all of that, but he spread it out to the other people. This is the nature of the great Acharyas. They are Swapara hita paras. We might have seen before, right? Siddham sat sampradaye sthiradiyamanagham shrotriyam brahmanishtham satvastham satyavacham samayaniyataya sadhuvritya sametam rambasuyadi muktam jitavishayaganam dirgabandhum dayalum Schalitye shasitaram swaparahita param deshikam bhushnuripset. This is the shloka from Nyasa Vimshati that we have seen earlier. When understanding the qualities of the spiritual preceptor, so you should be swaparahitapara, implying you should desire what is good for not only yourself, but is good for you as well as for the entire world. The best good for everybody. There are people who would care about themselves and never about others. There are people who would harm themselves while trying to save others. It is also an appreciable quality. Thinking about others without having any kind of selfishness, that is great. But ideally, you should take care of yourself as well, because you are not the owner of this body. You did not take birth out of your own free will. You were granted this body by Bhagavan. Therefore, you have duties in this life. Therefore, you have to take care of yourself as well. But while taking care of yourself, do not be selfish. Take care of everybody, understanding everybody to be equal. This is the teaching of Vishishtadvaita. We will conclude today's lecture here. If any of you has any question, feel free to ask. He heard all the 4,000 hymns at once. How did he memorize it? He was a great Acharya, not like me or you. Plus, he had divine blessings. See, he was already a master of yoga. Plus, it was through the blessings of Shatakopa Muni that he learned. When a divine being comes and gives you knowledge as a blessing, that knowledge will stay with you. When you see Valmiki Ramayana, Narada gave a summary of Ramayana to Valmiki. But sage Valmiki, sometime later, he met Brahmadeva. Brahmadeva gave him a boon. He blessed him with the complete knowledge of everything that happened. With that knowledge, Maharshi Valmiki was able to compose the Ramayana. Therefore, due to blessings of the divine people who are granting the knowledge would stay. That is one way to understand. Another way to understand is Natha Muni was himself, by himself, he was a great yogi. As a great yogi, he would have had the yogic power to memorize everything he heard. That is also there. Both of these, I believe to be true. So there is no question of him having any kind of possibility of forgetting anything that he learned. Good question. If there is any other question, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we will end the session here. कवितार्किक सिंहाय कल्याण गुणशालिने श्रीमते वेंकटेशाय वेदांत गुरवे नमः. Thank you so much for attending.
Thank you very much, Guruji. Jai Shri Ram.
Jai Shri Ram.